And we're live on YouTube. Hi, thanks so much for joining us. It's Totally Football Show, as you know, and Sunday evening. So we'll just get into it, shall we? We're recording our podcast. It's going to be available, but you get to hear it first live as it emerges from our mouths. And it sounds a little something like this. Totally Football Show. Today, on a weekend when timber fell and wood was on fire, we talk Arsenal and Liverpool, all square in a proper Super Sunday sizzler. Also, West Ham do Man United, the Dallo chance, and is it time to Dallo cab for Ten Hag? And can you believe it? The Wolves wild finale and all of the Saturday late goal bonanza. All that and more in this Totally Football Show. Sunday the 17th, Sunday the 27th of October. Woo! We've got some Totally Football Show for you on the back of a wild weekend of Premier League action. Matchday 9, they're calling it. And to chat about that and so much more, JJ Ball. Hey, JJ.
Hello.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Matt Davies-Adams, fresh back from Stamford Bridge, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Where you saw the Cole Palmer show.
Sure did. Latest episode was a goodie.
On his way back as we speak from the London Stadium, with the latest on Ten Hag, etc. And West Ham's mighty win is Carl Anka, but not here yet. He'll be sliding into the chat as and when. A reminder, by the way, if you're catching this in our podcast format on Monday, Tuesday, whenever, that if you do want to, for whatever healthy reason, watch us make this show live, you can just tune in on our YouTube channel around 6:45 on a Sunday evening, like you're doing, YouTube viewer. Lovely stuff. Busy weekend. Loads to talk about. What's your favourite bit, Matt?
Oh, can I be utterly predictable and say Nottingham Forest winning at Leicester? And I think it was actually the timing of the Forest supporters singing the Steve Cooper chant when the third goal went in.
For the uninitiated, explain to us the significance of them doing that.
Just because the game was won, but also I think the fact that the chant originally included the line "hates the Leicester," and the Leicester supporters seem to not have much positive feeling toward him. It was a Forest having been handily beaten there during Cooper's time. It was a nice full circle moment of redemption for many of us, if not for Cooper himself.
Are you going to miss the relegation battle this year, Matt?
No.
Not so much. JJ, I guess I don't need to ask you what your favourite bit. Probably sleeping on top of the table on Saturday night like a cadaver.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right.
In those words. Yes, beating Dundee United 1-0. A late goal from a player who hasn't really done an awful lot for Aberdeen since signing. It was fantastic. Being top of the table with Aberdeen I've never seen it this late into a season. So it's very exciting.
This late into a season?
Oh yeah, This is. I mean, it should be. It's too much to really to handle. Of course, Celtic are now back at top of the table, and of course
on goal difference.
On goal difference, yeah.
Right.
But I mean, it's significant. They will finish top, but maybe they won't.
Okay.
So JJ and I are both adults who work in football professionally, and I'd imagine that we both took screenshots of league tables this weekend, which is sort of endearing and a little bit embarrassing. But
a lot of people asking about your Aberdeen pessimism. CGW says, have you started to dream yet? JJ, obviously not. Casper Bonnen says, could Aberdeen beat Real Madrid?
I mean, we did once do it in the 1983 Cup Winners' Cup final, of course.
Oh, nice.
With that win, which was a huge thing for the club, which I've never mentioned before in any media places before. I am allowing myself a little bit of fun now. The momentum's building, and I still think Celtic are just too far ahead. And I think, like, when you compare it to Leicester winning the league, the differences are that you had other teams that weren't doing very well, and you need that to happen. You need everything to go perfectly for you and everything to rise, and you really ride the wave of the confidence momentum. But also the teams who are meant to win should fall away, and Celtic are just too good. And that it's not pessimism. I think it's hardened realism. I like to think. But yes, the dreaming part, I'm allowing myself a little bit of fun with it now.
Okay, Rangers midweek.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the Premier League results coming in for you, as indeed is Carl Anka. So while he takes his chair, let me just run through what's happened so far on Matchday 9. Friday evening, a 3-1 victory for Nottingham Forest at Leicester. Chris Wood with his 7th goal in 7 games for club and country. Saturday at 3, Man City's 1-0 win against Saints was straightforward enough. Erling Haaland in his league drought. But there was late drama in all the other Saturday games. Brentford coming back from 2 goals down to beat Ipswich 4-3 in the 96th minute. Wolves make it 2-2 at Brighton in the 93rd. The Cherries scoring their equaliser in a 1-1 draw with Aston Villa in the 96th minute. And in the tea time game, Everton Fulham, Beto scoring for the Toffees in the 95th to make it 1-1. Madness. Sunday then, West Ham beat Man United 2-1 at the London Stadium. It was 2-1 for Chelsea over Newcastle as well. And then Crystal Palace got their first win of the season, 1-0 against Spurs. And Arsenal and Liverpool drew 2-2 at the Emirates. Welcome, Carl Anka.
Hello, James. I'm sorry I'm late.
No, you missed nothing. Excellent. Very, very shortly, like next, we'll talk about Arsenal and Liverpool. Comms, is it, Charlie? And then some James Pearce. Do I need to intro James, or we can just roll straight into that, what I say? Joining us from a freshly signed... No, I need to say 2-2. Yeah, okay. What are you putting in? The Mo Salah goal?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. Call the celebration police. Mo Salah there, make it 2-2 at the Emirates with a brilliant equaliser. What does that mean for Arsenal's title dreams? We'll talk about that next. But first, here's James Pearce with thoughts on Liverpool's performance. James, once again, a tough test for Liverpool and one that they pass. How did they do it?
I thought they showed a lot of character and resilience to dig themselves out of the hole twice. Really, I think a lot was made about Arsenal's absentees, and I'm sure a lot we made about the players that they lost over the course of this game as well. But let's not forget that was Liverpool without Alisson Becker and without Diogo Jota, the best goalie in the world, and their main striker. So I thought they were outplayed for big chunks of the first half, but responded really well to going behind, got themselves back into it with that Van Dijk header, and then when Marino made it 2-1 just before the break, you thought, is this going to be the day when the wheels came off this remarkable start to Slot's reign? But credit to him, I thought his substitutions made a big difference second half, and I thought they deserved the point in the end.
What was the difference, do you think, at half-time? Because there was a real switch in the domination of the game.
Yeah, I think it was probably a few factors, really. I mean, I think the changes Slot made certainly helped. I thought bringing on Gakpo and Szoboszlai and Tsimikas, Szoboszlai especially, I thought gave them a bit more energy and athleticism in the middle of the park. I think also you could see that Arsenal were affected, by the loss of Gabriel. I think you could see it was such a kind of patched up back four that it just lacked a bit of leadership. And I think that just gave Liverpool encouragement. And the amount of ball Liverpool had second half, you were starting to wonder if they were just going to pay the price for not doing enough with it. But it was a wonderfully crafted second equaliser. Exquisitely weighted pass down the right from Alexander-Arnold, Darwin Núñez pulling the ball back, and Salah doing what he does best.
3 big games, or 3 big tests that they've passed. But what questions, James, do you think are still there to be answered for this Slot side?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you're nitpicking, you'd say again, especially the first half, they caused a lot of problems for themselves with how poor they were in possession in terms of giving the ball away. I thought they invited pressure at times. Also, Núñez worked really hard, but he was coming so deep in that first half that there was no outball at all to relieve the pressure. And of course, they rode their luck at times against Chelsea. There was times in this game, especially first half, where you thought Arsenal could, if they'd been a bit more ruthless, be out of sight. But yeah, the positives far outweigh the negatives for Liverpool at the minute. I mean, it's no surprise they're a work in progress, because this manager's only been coaching this squad of players for 3 months.
Oh, James Pearce there. James Pearce there on the whistle from the Emirates. What does it mean for Arsenal, though? What does it mean for Arsenal? Is that it? It's a bit early for me saying, is that it? Do you know what? Let me pick that up again, actually. Sorry, I was completely unprepared for that interview actually ending. Okay, so, wow. James Pearce there at the end of what was a roller coaster of emotions, certainly for us watching. And I imagine the Arsenal fans in the stadium watching their players dropping like flies.
Like timber.
Like timber, essentially, yes. One in particular. What do you think? Where does that leave them, Matt?
if you go on vibes, which you probably shouldn't, it doesn't feel great, does it? But if you go on available players, it doesn't feel great either. So, I mean, they are only 3 points behind Manchester City, but considering how they seemed to be the dominant force in the first half, it was quite stark how they ceded that control of the game. I don't think you can put all of that down to players being unavailable or going off during the game. It certainly feels like a season-defining period for them now, doesn't it? Newcastle next week, Inter and Chelsea away in the near future as well. They could do with, even if it was something like Lewis Skelly or Wanyeri coming off and doing something to get you off your seat, go, right, okay, well, here's somebody we can put some stock in for the next few weeks. But it all just feels a bit flat at the moment.
I mean, the back four by the end of the game, I imagine would have read Lewis Kelly, Kiwior, White and Partey. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was that right? Did Kiwior come on?
Kiwior came on, for Gabriel, yeah.
Yeah. We were wondering whether this is like Arsenal having injuries this season as a result of overplaying last season potentially, because they had so many that played. And I was looking through just some very basic numbers with minutes and games played. And I always compare Arsenal to Man City because I think they do it best. They have the biggest and best squad possibly, so that's probably a real reason.
Pep Guardiola rotates very, very well. You almost forget they have a great player, and right towards the tail end of the season, he always goes, "Oh, would you like some Bernardo Silva or John Stones and whatnot?"
Well, that's it. But he uses them on purpose, right? So they all get like 25 starts basically each at Man City. So they're
often paired.
So they basically share like job share almost, but they still get loads of starts. And like Arsenal last season had 11 players that played over 2,000 minutes in the league for Man City. 11 players played over 2,000 minutes in the league for Man City last season. 9 outfield players played over 2,000 minutes for Arsenal, so that's more for Man City. However, no player played over 3,000 minutes for Man City last season, and 4 played for Arsenal, with Saka and White about 90 minutes off it, between 12 and 18 minutes off last season, just in the league. So it could be that they're just, maybe it's like workload. You don't know if that's the result of what's happening with them now, but it's a problem. Like missing Odegaard is huge for them in particular because all their link-up play sort of disappears. But I think this game was more two teams defending really well and making it super direct. Like there was no midfield to play against the other team. There's no point playing through the middle because you're getting marked there. So everyone's going wide, which means your options really are to go long or wide, and so then just nothing happens, and you see it in the result of like how many chances there were. Expected goals in open play were 0.58 for Arsenal to 0.6 for Liverpool. There's nothing really created.
I had this on, part radio, part typing up my match report for the Manchester United game, and one of the thoughts that came through was that when Arsenal went 2-1 up, they sort of decided to try and shut up shop instead of go for that third goal.
But they do that all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So
is that wise to do against Liverpool?
They almost got it. I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good point for Liverpool. I think Arsenal disappointed.
Well, I'm going to say, is it that bad a point for Arsenal, given the injuries that they've got and given the nature of Liverpool's recent form? I mentioned Chelsea last week, RB Leipzig midweek as well.
But if they come from behind twice to draw, then it's not, is it? But the fact that they led twice in the game is the psychological.
I hear you. We saluted the magnificent Mo Salah goal with which Liverpool equalised. The Saka goal, which opened the score, was pretty good as well. Pretty good, eh?
Yeah, he's one of those, as JJ's just touched upon there, that worries me, that we're just going to get to him being 27, 28 and go, oh yeah, he just played way too much football, didn't he? And now he's a diminished force. I was concerned when I saw his name on the team sheet because you think, how fit actually is he? And could Raheem Sterling not start this game instead?
He looked pretty fit though, did he not?
Yeah, he did. But I just think as we're seeing with your Gabriels and others, accumulation of just game after game after game is going to make him more susceptible to longer term absences, and that's my worry for Saka in particular. But he sure leathered it, didn't he?
He certainly did. Having first sat Andy Robertson down on his bum very firmly.
He's had a tough few weeks, Robertson, hasn't he? I think seems a little bit off it, but not a big story from this game.
Good to have him back for Arsenal, particularly with Odegaard potentially back for next weekend's game against Newcastle. Liverpool then equalised through Virgil van Dijk, who personally, naively, I felt might have been in a bit of trouble before this when he kicked out in a kind of slightly Beckham 98-esque fashion repeatedly.
It's too early in the game. You couldn't possibly send them off then. It would just be silly. I think you have to allow a little bit, I think both teams would have known, they'd have been told in the dressing room, these are going to go at you, you're going to get into loads of arguments, keep your head cool. which then I suppose is an interesting point that Van Dijk then did kick Havertz. But like Havertz has been like pulling on him. Who knows? I think if you're a referee, you watch just like, come on, guys, like chill out. It's like the common sense rule where you just go, just behave. It's fine now.
Okay.
You got to allow it sometimes.
Liverpool were level, but then as the first half drew to a close, Arsenal got a free kick after a foul on Partey. Match director presciently called the close-up on the Arsenal Nicholas Jover.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, one of the Jover schemes came to fruition.
He made it easy for the match director, to be fair, didn't he? By placing himself right on the edge of the technical area away from Mikel Arteta so that he could be bang in the middle of the shot.
That's it. But that's what Arsenal have become elite at, is set pieces. Like they can grind games down. They're amazing out of possession, Arsenal. So everyone's man-marked. It's like hybrid pressing system, then man-marked everywhere else. You can't play through them. You don't want to risk playing through the press because the result is that they're going to score. And everything then like comes down, so like expected goals come down and open play chances come down. But if you grind games down that way, what you need to do is be really effective at your set pieces, which I think we've probably covered 1,000 times before. But this is what Jover's done so well with Arsenal. They've got all these big units in the team that can attack a ball really well. But no matter how many times you practice those set pieces, the delivery every single time from Saka, and then in this instance Declan Rice, the ball he puts in is perfectly weighted, perfectly curled. Like the pace on it is exactly where it's meant to go. The header's obviously really good, but like the delivery of the ball, that's the kind of thing. If you have a player like that, and instantly your chances of scoring are going to go up from those situations, and that's what they've focused on, right? Is set pieces this season.
The way we are describing Arsenal now, so maximising control of games, trying to reduce variance, trying to maximise your set pieces. This sounds Deschamps-esque. This sounds like how some of the top sufferable managers,
Sounds
in
George
quotes,
Graham, Arsenal-esque.
Yeah, well,
it's a very international football team approach of we're going to make sure we're not going to lose the game, and then we'll have that extra 5-10%, whatever quality you have to make sure you win.
I was saying stuff like this like ages ago, Carl. Like 2 years ago, we were talking about this when we were doing videos and stuff. Like I jokingly have said in the past that they're like a really elite version of Stoke or something like that, and I'm joking. But like, it's not that different to what a lot of managers do.
It's not an insult.
Like, it reminds me of the old Aberdeen manager Derek McInnes. Like, you be hard to beat. You defend where you need to play, and then you have elite players that can take you through. Diego Simeone is similar, right? So first of all, you have to be hard to beat. But it also reminds me of how Alex Ferguson's best teams were, where you had players who weren't maybe the best ones, but they defended so well it's impossible to play against them, and they always had a way of scoring against you.
Mm-hmm. Back-to-back weeks in the Premier League, they haven't been hard to beat. Oh, sorry, they haven't actually lost, but they certainly haven't had the win. Should we put that exclusively down to the injuries at the back?
Well, the Bournemouth defeat was coloured by the red card, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
That kind of takes care of that one, I think. But yeah, if you're missing Saliba, Odegaard, Calafiore,
Timber,
and now Gabriel for, who obviously Saliba comes back for the next game, but how long is Gabriel going to be out for? It's it's caught up with him.
Carabao Cup action next for Arsenal and Liverpool. Wednesday night, Arsenal are at Deepdale, take on Preston North End. How did Preston get on this weekend, Matt?
They were 3-0 up at Wayne Rooney's Plymouth and contrived to throw that lead away.
Dear. The Gunners next for them. Liverpool will be travelling to Brighton. And then on the weekend, they'll be hosting Brighton in the Premier League Match Day 10. Anything else you want to say about this game at the Emirates? Any other conclusion? It's only just finished, but I don't know if JJ, if there's something that's...
I don't know. I think it's interesting that the way that game's played, that two really amazing teams who have fantastic players on there, it's so tactical now. Like, it's really slowed down. And the ball has to go long constantly, which is not what you'd think of that sort of game. But you can see both managers are constantly doing things out of possession to try and stop the other one from being able to play. And so, although there was 2 goals, and you can see it was quite a good game. I mean, was it? Like, it wasn't... I'm not going to remember that game tomorrow. Like, it wasn't hugely exciting, I don't think. I think just 2 teams of good players. I mean, they're clearly both good teams. I mean, what am I even saying here? There's just 2 good
exceptional goals as well. I would say the opener and the final.
Well, 2 set pieces, and then you're looking to try and hit people on the counter a little bit.
Like, I really like Saka's goal as well. But hey, maybe you enjoyed some of this weekend's other matches more. Let's find out next up. Having spoken about Arsenal and Liverpool, let's find out what Man City got up to. Man City Saturday played Southampton. Did they win? Yes, of course they did. But on Thursday, we were talking about them maybe getting, 10. We got a 1 and a 0, but not, all on one side of the score sheet. It was Erling Haaland with the only goal. Quite an impressive strike, though, while being hauled over. Yeah? I thought he did well.
And
Pep and Bernardo Silva said that Saints did well, as they...
Of course they did.
Oh, of course they did. The Pep compliment is...
Yeah.
It was one of the more egregious Pep compliments before the game. And then afterwards, it is reminiscent of when Pep Guardiola would put several goals past Norwich and going, guys, they're so good.
Yeah. Saints are so good that they're off to their worst start since 1998-99, when they failed to win, as this season, any of their opening 9 matches, but went on to survive in the Premier League, so there's that.
Mighty Marion Parhas helped with that one.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just giving Parhas his flowers.
Oh, nice. Okay. Here's a stat. This from Daniel Story about Man City's Josko Guardiol. He had more touches in the final third, or he has had more touches in the final third this season than any other player in the Premier League. Isn't that mad?
I tried to find this. I don't doubt Daniel Story's much superior journalism and research skills, but I can't find it on
Can you not?
FBref and on Opta, because I think that's really interesting. And I've actually got a theory about why this is, and there's so many defenders now that are becoming increasingly important within just modern football.
Right.
It's all to do with out of possession stuff. So everyone's locked down. So when you want to find the spare man, it's usually someone at the back, your centre backs. But if you're marking man-to-man, usually in a 4-4-2 block, and the left back or a centre back starts wandering up the pitch, you have to work out whose job that is to take them. If you do it very quickly, and you're not organised and don't expect it, that player then appears in spaces that is really dangerous. We've seen Guardiola often in the last 2 seasons has ended up in the final third in the left half space bit and pings it in with his right foot. But he's a spare man because he runs in from the left. This cheat code thing. That's the end. This cheat code. Everyone's saying cheat code. Guardiola coming forward though, that's really interesting. And then you think centre backs doing it as well. Like Van de Ven's rushing through. Romero does it quite a lot.
So Malagusto do it a lot actually.
Yeah.
Today too, which is weird.
Cucurella isn't a lot this season, and it just gives you. It doesn't have to be that they get even the touch, but they make a run that drags someone else with them, which then frees up someone else. And I think that's an increasing. Something I've noticed quite a lot happening. Yeah.
Excellent. Man City remain a point clear of Liverpool. No, sorry. Man City are now a point clear of Liverpool. I'll do that again, shall I? Man City with the win, a point clear of Liverpool at the top of the table. Arsenal, 5 points back. 5. Yikes. All right, on to Sunday's other games then. Matt, you were at Chelsea. Carl, you're just back from the London Stadium.
Indeed.
And that Man United West Ham game. Why don't you start with that, eh? The comeback and the save us David Moyes derby, I'm calling it.
Okay.
It finished 2-1 to West Ham. How fair a result was that?
That is perhaps the worst first half performance I've seen of a Premier League team that's managed to win in the second half.
Really?
Manchester United came in at half time with, I think their community XG was 1.48. The eye test is they should have won. They should have scored 3 or 4.
Right.
Alejandro Garnacho hits the crossbar within the first 3 minutes. He shoots just wide after 8 minutes. Bruno Fernandes misses a free header around about the 20-minute mark. Diogo Dalot has what I now think is the miss of the season. So much of the game plan is...
So this is a Bruno Fernandes ball, like pumped up field.
It's one of those superb passes. Daniel Story often talks about this, where someone makes a pass and it's a button press if you're playing a computer game, and yet if you did that at five-a-side or Sunday League, you'd be talking about it for the rest of your life.
Right.
About how the ball was feathered and the weather was just and it was fantastic. So much of United's play in this first half is revolving around Marcus Rashford tucking inside from the right wing, just really stretching the space for Dalot on the right wing, and also giving loads of space for Garnacho was up against Wan-Bissaka and very wisely went, I'm not going to engage you in a man-to-man fight. I'm just going to run around you because Wan-Bissaka's positioning has often been suspect for playing for United. So they're attacking down the wings loads. Fernandes plays this sumptuous ball into the right channel for Dalot, who's coming in from the right into the half space. He takes it around Fabianski.
Well, he got a sombreros from Fabianski.
Sombreros nudges it. It is amazing. Fabianski's left in no man's land, marooned. West Ham players retreating back. No one's going to do it. You can feel one West Ham defender going, if I can just get to the near post, maybe I can close down an angle and it won't just be an obvious goal. And then Dalot shoots high and wide, and you can see Van Nistelrooy shaking his head in disbelief. I've got my head in my hands. Manchester United fans, way. The London Stadium's often, everyone's far away from each other in sheer disbelief at this miss.
So... Wait, you arrived late because you were doing the press conferences post-game, were you?
Well,
did you hear from Ten Hag?
Ten Hag said there were 5, maybe 6 chances. Said he didn't want to go in on Dalot for that miss. He cited some of the other misses I mentioned. He also brought up one other chance that Marcus Rashford had through on goal, where Rashford didn't really shoot. He just sort of passed. But at halftime, if you're a conventional team, if you're a normal football team, you do your halftime team talk of, this is going really well, gentlemen. Keep up the good work, and the goal will come. But this is Manchester United we're talking about. And West Ham, 2 smart changes at halftime. Christian Somerville came on for Carlos Soler, who's having troubles adjusting to the Premier League. Thomas Souček coming on for Paquetá, who is looking really undercooked.
Really?
To start this season, I must say. And they built. Somerville gets the goal in the 71st minute, I want to say. 74th minute. Casemiro header in the 81st to spare some blushes. And then just the refereeing decision that...
Yeah. Okay. So there's a coming together of players which
Yes.
features De Ligt.
A coming together of De Ligt and Danny Ings in the penalty area. No West Ham player protests for a penalty in real time.
Right.
The ball is cleared. The ball, a couple of phases of play later, deep in their half, then you hear the VAR ding, penalty, reviewing a penalty. Quite confusing. Everyone's where, why, how. Very lengthy review, to which Mr. Coote is sent over to the screen, and Michael Oliver has an image that shows sufficient contact in the lower legs between De Ligt and Danny Ings that crosses the threshold, and therefore a penalty can be awarded. During this review, I can see De Ligt do the sort of diving motion with his hands, similar to this. Danny Ings is looking very amicable, talking to De Ligt about this. So, not a real. It's definitely a penalty, but if it's given, I'll take it.
Sure.
The penalty is awarded. Darren Fletcher is, I would like to say, 4 rows in front of me in the analyst section. I see him close his laptop. He says some maritime language,
Right.
shall we say, about the thresholds, and then storms off into towards the dugout. Erik Ten Hag is apoplectic. Ruud van Nistelrooy is apoplectic. Ten Hag's press conference is one of the better ones I've had talking to him and seeing him, where he talks about how he believes the best team lost. And he talks about how it was clear and obvious how his team was the best team, and then also says it was not clear and obvious. We were told about clear. He did a real nice wrestling promo, Matt, where he brought up how it was clear and obvious his team was the best team, and then also brought up how it was not clear and obvious that this should have been a penalty.
Would you say it was a better press conference than the one he gave after the 1-1 draw against Fenerbahce?
I would.
Yeah.
I would. That one was peculiar.
Where he denied that the Tottenham 3-0 defeat took place.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a red card, isn't it? That wasn't a red card. He said there were now three injustices Manchester United have faced. He also did say we didn't take our chances, and that we allowed West Ham to come into it in the second half.
There's a lot of people saying you can't put this on the manager if there's bad refereeing decisions, and particularly if the players don't take their chances. But their scoring is the worst that they've had at this point in the season since the 1973-74 season.
Indeed, they've got the greatest underperformance in front of goal on the XG table of any Premier League team. This is a team that does not create enough chances.
Right.
Their forwards are not shooting enough on goal.
Right.
When they do shoot on goal, their ball striking is incredibly wayward, so they're shooting high and wide, missing presentable chances. You've got a collection of forwards like Garnacho, who needs the ball in high volume in order to make Garnacho really likes shooting at near post when he's through, which when it works, it doesn't, but he probably needs about 2 warm-up shots to get his rhythm. The problem with that is Manchester United don't give him 6 shots. So those 2 warm-up shots are going, okay, well, you get 1 more now, and if you don't score this, then United aren't scoring again. And United are a confidence team in that they often need to score 1 goal before they remember how to do a through ball other than Bruno Fernandes. So this is a team that is in bad form, or you can outright just call them a bad team, that are now being affected by bad luck in both penalty areas.
Okay, 14th in the Premier League table. Also, I was a bit stunned by this. They've now gone a year with the Fenerbahce draw on Thursday. They've now gone a year without winning a game in Europe.
1 win in their last 8 games in all competitions, and that victory was against League One Barnsley.
1 more goal than Chris Wood in the Premier League, though. So
I mean, you can compete with Chris Wood in the Premier League right now, other than Erling Haaland.
Wow. Well, Carl, that was extraordinary. That was extraordinary. Many thanks. West Ham, any positive thoughts for them?
I'd say the second half turnaround was good.
Yeah.
Lopetegui mentioned about how perhaps he said at the first half it was difficult because we had 2 players on yellow cards and it's hard when you have to press a big team with that. So you had to make those changes. I think Somerville really did change the game. Having a genuine winger out there is useful because as much as I love Mohamed Kudus, I think he's better as a 10 or a box-to-box. So when Kudus does come back from his suspension, it might be an opportunity to play Kudus in the more central area and actually give Paquetá a breather. Because I think Paquetá's in a really odd state in that West Ham don't necessarily want to bench him because they don't know how many more weeks or months they're going to have left with him. But also, he is in need of a rest. Perhaps what is going on in his life is affecting his form, but this is not the Paquetá that charmed so many people last season, the season before that.
Fair enough. West Ham moving above Man United up into 13th spot. Matt, meantime, you were at the big Chelsea-Newcastle game Sunday afternoon at Stamford Bridge. One of 2 Chelsea-Newcastle clashes this week.
Sure, yeah. Premier League points today. Disgusting/delicious Carabao on offer on Wednesday.
Okay.
To the Vic team.
Well, it was very much delicious for the pass which set up it was very much delicious, the pass with which Cole Palmer set up the opening goal for Chelsea in this game.
2 great pre-assists today. Got the Trent one as well, didn't we? And very similar kind of style passes as well.
Cole's was better, I reckon.
Yeah, I think so too. He'd had a goal chalked off for a very marginal offside just before that, but he thought, hang it all if I'm not going to influence this game in some form or fashion. Chelsea probably just about worth the win. Quite liking the Enzo Maresca quirks, of which there seemed to be some in every game. Reece James at left back was not something which I had on my bingo card, nor was Reece James playing 90 minutes actually, and made a tremendous clearance at the end of the game. Maresca's thrown some shade his way in his pre-match press conference, saying that he needs to basically be more of a captain and show more of himself around the club and be a bit more. I'm the spearhead and figurehead of this team, which I think is nice copy, but as ever with Reece James, it's all moot until he starts playing some games. This is the first time he'd started a Premier League game at Stamford Bridge since November, which is not really what you want your captain to be in. But yeah, Chelsea, I mean, there could have been 3 or 4-0 up after about half an hour. Newcastle's organisation was bizarre. The gap between the defence and midfield was quite extraordinary to watch. But
they looked like a team with a man down, essentially.
They did, yeah. But then you come back to organisation, and Simon Johnson wrote a piece for a little website called The Athletic last week talking about Chelsea's lack of leaders in defence, and you see this for the goal that they concede. They're kind of a bit all over the place, let Newcastle back into the game. But then Newcastle returned the compliment at the start of the second half, and Nick Pope, who looked like he'd been spooked by something, he was flapping at stuff, punching crosses he should have caught, and he let Palmer's goal
It's Halloween next week, I guess. Could be the spooky stuff.
Not great for Popes. Possibly, I don't know.
Someone did that.
Yeah. Cole Palmer, by the way, has scored 21 goals in 21 Premier League games at Stamford Bridge for Chelsea, which is ludicrous. He's had 45 goal involvements in 42 Premier League games,
mad
home
numbers.
and away, which is nuts. So yeah, that was good. Poor goalkeeping from Pope, but generally otherwise Chelsea-wise, I think the big thing is having Lavia and Caicedo as 2 kind of screeners, rather than it's just not crowbarring Enzo Fernandez into the team in a role which he's not good at, and I think he's pretty underwhelming anyway, to be perfectly honest, whereas Lavia was exceptional and he got a standing O as he left the pitch, which for a defensive midfielder is not something that you see very often. So yeah, big promise for Chelsea there. I think Newcastle, I know they got the PSR thing, but to be this far down the line of being owned by who they're owned by, and having Fabian Schär and Dan Burn as their starting centre halves, and bringing on Willock and Longstaff and Murphy to try and change the game, you think, are you that into this, guys? Is this, they didn't have Anthony Gordon for this game, which was obviously a big blow for them. But yeah, you just look at them and think, this is all a bit meh and not what we thought was going to happen.
Magpies, indeed.
Yeah,
FPL Ralph says, who's been the best player in the Premier League this season so far, and why is it Cole Palmer? So JJ and I were talking before everything started happening today about if you bought a football club, who you would rather sign. Would it be Cole Palmer? Who do you rather have in your team, Cole Palmer or Erling Haaland? Probably you'll say, or Chris Wood at this point, and fair enough. JJ, did you come up with a conclusion on that?
Well, it's hard to pick because we're saying the most like valuable commodity in football is goals.
Right.
So you'd get that from Haaland, but you feel like Palmer's this unbelievable player who can make an entire team work, whereas Haaland finish off the moves. So I would think almost in every single day I would pick Haaland, but actually now I think I would pick Palmer every single day.
Wow.
So
Imagine being a football club that had both on the books at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible.
yes,
I
well,
think the thing with Palmer
we'll
is
never
that
know.
Haaland does, like at the end of the City game on Saturday, Haaland just looked really annoyed that he missed those couple of chances, and the fact that he was the match winner had kind of passed him by, whereas Palmer seems impervious to any kind of negativity in a way which is sort of extraordinary, and I'm really envious of that he can do that. So I think for a kind of level-headedness as well as the brilliance, he'd be my pick. But then I
There
watch
is the
him all
point
the
that he
time.
hasn't done it on multiple seasons to the extent that Haaland does. And to your point, Pep had both of them and decided to stick with Haaland, which, you know.
I think the next frontier for Cole Palmer is doing it in multiple seasons and also doing it in the biggest games. Yes, I know before someone yells at me, he did score in the Euros final. But there are going to be, as Chelsea go from being this team currently in the Conference League to a team that, at least to my mind, will probably play in Champions League football next season. What is he going to do when he's up against the top Champions League quality defenders and whatnot? And I have every faith and conviction that he will do it. But I think that's the next one because the sample size isn't quite big enough yet for me to go, okay, you've got the necessary intangibles to take a game against Newcastle by the scruff of the neck. Can you do it against Liverpool again? Can I see you again against Manchester City and see what you have?
I think you can tell when you watch. Like, this is the one thing with Palmer is like, probably on your point actually, what backs you up is that with Palmer, the first time I saw him, I didn't really quite see it. Like,
I was long to
Yeah.
say he was great.
so like, remember he came off the bench well, not bench. He started and he scored the goal that won the Super Cup for
Yes.
Man City, and he also scored the goal that won the Community Shield, I think, or equalised it anyway. So he's already a big game player before he joined Chelsea. But I think the difference with like these players like Palmer and Haaland is when you have like games that are locked down, the difference makers are the ones that are the most valuable in football, and Haaland gets you goals out of nowhere. So he will just finish a chance that you should never have, but he doesn't give you other stuff. He's the pinhead that you need, right?
The final point.
Pinhead.
He is
Pinhead. Well, it's a poor choice of words. And he has a giant head, so I don't know what I'm saying. But Palmer can... He is a game changer. He's
Right.
like a moment decider. He is the one that pulls something like that pass to send Neto through on the wing. There's very few players that know that run's going to be there and know to thread it between the centre back or the full back and Neto's running rather than just pinging it over the top. Then I think it's decision making. I think that he has that few players at that level have, and
Yes.
that's what it is. Like he's really switched on the ball when he's playing. I think he's amazing. Yeah.
I want to see him do it more, but it's not a case of he's not done it. When I say want to see him do it more, that's not me saying he hasn't done it enough against
You're
the
not
current
brave
team.
enough, Carl. You want to push it out.
No, I want to say, well, it's quite frankly, he's not played enough top 6 teams yet for me to get really out of my
Are
seat.
you
and
also
go,
saying that with Haaland we know what he's capable of, but with Cole Palmer we still don't know how much.
Indeed,
He can
and that's
do.
always a bit
Haaland-
more captivating.
Yeah.
And Haaland's a machine, isn't he? Which is, for the purposes, if you want that for your football team, somebody who's ultra reliable, yeah, great. But to steal a line from the Athletics' Daniel Taylor, who used to say this about Wayne Rooney, I found myself quickening my step once I got off the tube at Fulham Broadway to walk to Stamford Bridge because I
Right.
thought, I'm going to go and watch Cole Palmer play
Yeah.
today. And I can't wait to get there.
Which would you rather interview, Matt, Erling Haaland or Cole Palmer?
Probably Palmer, because neither are good, but Haaland can be quite scathing, whereas Palmer's just sort of one word. Haaland would let you know that it was a bad question and you're an idiot.
There you go. Alrighty. Lots of people excited by Chelsea. Just quickly, just mention Andrew Turner. Thank you for writing in. Andrew points out Chelsea are 1 point off third. Not sure if that's still true, is it? Yes, it is. 1 point off third with the youngest squad in the league. There was never anything confusing about Maresca wanting 2 players for each position and moving on veterans who didn't suit his system. The mockery in the summer always felt misguided and cheap.
I don't think
he
the
sent that
mockery
to-
was of Maresca.
No.
I think it's important to say that, and I think that it's fair to say that Chelsea's approach to recruitment has been slapdash, but has calmed down a lot now, and they deserve some credit for that. But yeah, they've built a squad of excellent players, it's not a surprise the results have picked up. But Enzo Maresca deserves a lot of credit for the way that he's implemented it and the way that he's shown more flexibility than we previously thought he had based on what he did with Leicester last season.
I'd even go back to last season. I thought they were, by the end of the season, they finished, what, 6th, 7th for last season?
Chelsea, yes.
Chelsea.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Six,
sort
yeah.
of
Because
spring upturn on the Pochettino. Basically from April onwards, they were very, very
Yeah.
good. And yes, Chelsea did accumulate and churn in what is a unusual, unorthodox manner. I remember scoffing when they signed Pedro Neto, but also Pedro Neto is a good football player.
that's it. Like, there's like the overwhelming narrative that what they're doing is so silly. Look at those idiots. Look at what they're doing. But then when you actually like look at what the squad is, 2 great players per position with like a good age and a high ceiling
Good
and
age,
lots.
high ceiling, varying talent. So Pedro Neto is a very different style of left-sided winger to Jadon Sancho, which is good as well. I think the silliness reached the point where there are some players in that Chelsea squad that are good enough to be starters, if not the centerpiece of teams that should be finishing 6th place. So, for example, Enzo is good enough to be starting on, let's say, this Newcastle team and helping this Newcastle team get better, and yet he just doesn't fit and cost more than 100 million. So you go, now what? Or Nkunku. I don't think Nkunku gets into Chelsea's best starting 11. And yet I look at him and go, you could, again, not to pick on Newcastle, he could definitely do a job and be really useful for Newcastle. And I suppose part of it is jealousy, part of it is confusion, and part of it is that just thing of, could you not just let someone else have a bit of fun with that person you've got in the back of your cupboard? I've phrased that horribly wrong. I'm very sorry.
No. I think we all know what you mean. But anyway, yeah, mockery misguided where Chelsea's concerned. And I, for one, am glad that there are no old recordings of this podcast featuring any scathing words on their whole transfer setup. The other game early on Sunday, the other game early on Sunday was Crystal Palace against Spurs. And it saw the previously winless Palace get their first 3 points of the season following a visit from our old friends Dr. Tottenham. With the word on what actually happened at Selhurst Park, let's hear now from Ruben Pinder. Ruben, thank you so much for being with us. We didn't see the Palace Spurs game. What did we miss?
Well, Palace's best performance of the season is what you guys missed. I'm a lot happier coming on this call than I thought I would be this morning. It was a brilliant performance all around, a really positive response from Palace after a very disappointing game against Forest on Monday. Back 3 looked settled finally. There's a lot more intensity and purpose in Palace's out of possession play. Adam Wharton looked fitter than he has done because obviously he's been carrying that groin injury. And yeah, a really positive atmosphere helped by Spurs being quite underwhelming, I would say.
Dr. Spurs, as we say. Jean-Philippe Mateta with the only goal after a lovely flick on from Eze. How was the atmosphere there ahead of the game?
It was interesting because when these slumps kind of start to happen, the atmosphere can get, obviously, like frustration grows. It can get a little bit toxic sometimes. But given the kind of the time we've had to wait since the Forest game and all the discussion about, is he going to play 2 strikers? And there was a positive atmosphere, which, Palace fans are kind of known for producing in important moments. And, the players clearly appreciated that. At the end of the game, you saw Maxence Lacroix, who had his best performance in a Palace shirt, run over to the Homesdale and, giving it large, I would say. And yeah, Mateta scoring the only goal and bringing back his kicking the corner flag celebration, which he hasn't done for a while.
No, indeed. He hasn't had that much cause to, of course. Oliver Glasner, who was looking a little bit like the new Roy Hodgson in that he'd come in at the end of last season and had an amazing run of results, and the following season started with a not amazing run of results. How important a day could this be for Palace, do you think, Ruben?
Yeah, it's hugely important because the games that we've got coming up, Wolves and Fulham, obviously both games that Palace would kind of highlight as we should win those, and while we might not win others. Having not won all season until almost, the end of October, pressure was growing on Glasner, and it did seem like one of those patterns where he kind of maybe got a bit of a new manager bounce, and there was, back end of last season was never going to be sustained, especially with the departures of Elise and Anderson. But yeah, there is still a lot of good faith in goodwill for Glasner and patience for him, knowing that the pattern of Palace go through of, oh, we'll get a firefighter in, then try to upgrade to a kind of sexier manager, and then it all starts to go a bit wrong because maybe we don't have the right players, firefighter, and then it repeats. But it's a hugely important afternoon for him, and showed that the players can still carry out his plans, because in recent weeks they looked drained of confidence, but that was not a problem today.
Off to West Ham on Wednesday for the Carabao Cup. Ruben, thank you so much for that update.
Pleasure, thanks.
I don't think they are off to West Ham. I've got Villa Palace here. Yeah? Yes, Villa Palace. Okay. Ruben Pinder. Palace actually off to Aston Villa, so West Midlands, not West Ham, for their Carabao Cup.
Partial credit.
Yeah, there you go. It's a Cameron mistake, isn't it? Very good. Excellent Ruben Pinder there. Next up, we're going to tackle Saturday's action. Totally Football Show European edition is going to be out on Tuesday afternoon. What a European edition it's going to be this week. The final whistle is just blown on an extraordinary Derby d'Italia. 4-4 draw between Juventus and Inter and Juventus. But that wasn't the headline, was it? You also had El Clásico at the Bernabeu with Barcelona winning 4-0. Le Classique, which is taking place at the moment in France. PSG and Marseille. The Derby du Nord, the Derby de la Côte d'Azur, also in Ligue 1. Loads of stuff. PSV Eindhoven making it 11 league wins in a row with a 6-0 win over Pek Zwolle, which is how they're pronounced, and a 6-1 win for Atalanta against Hellas Verona. Where were those goals when they took on Celtic, JJ? What happened there?
I don't know, because I didn't watch the game.
Did you not? Okay.
I won't lie.
Kasper Schmeichel happened.
Did he?
Kasper Schmeichel what did it. Yeah, brilliant. All right, well, anyway, Tuesday, do join us for that as we round up all the big stories around Europe, and there's some midweek league action as well. Back in the Premier League, let's look at Saturday's games, and let's look first of all at Brentford Ipswich. We were talking on Thursday's pod about the fact that the Gtech is the most goalie stadium in the Premier League. This weekend it outdid itself. 7 goals there. That's now 24 goals in the last 5 matches, and this was just crazy.
It was glorious. This is the game of the season for me so far.
Game of the season.
Oh, tremendous.
Had everything, Carl.
I watched this, stood up with my arms behind my back, watch the match of the day highlights. Truly, I'm going to go do some errands. Oh, hang on, this is really fun. Let me really sit down and take this in. A game with just absolutely no handbrake. Truly fantastic football. I adore Brian Mbeumo right now, what he's doing. His partnership and link-up play with Wissa is... This is... Brentford are just... I was quite disappointed when Brentford came to Old Trafford the other week. I thought they were rather flat and expected quite a bit more. I think a lot of that was down to Lisandro Martinez just snapping into Mbeumo and making sure he just couldn't turn around with the ball at his feet. But give the man time to do that and give Wissa a bit of time and give space to run into. And this Brentford team can really, really hurt you. I also just quite enjoyed Calvin Phillips having some nicer touches for Ipswich. Phillips hasn't really shown everyone what he can do, but there were 2 or 3 flourishes here where I went, there it is, keep at it, you'll get there, you'll get there again.
If for any reason you miss this game, it saw Ipswich looking for their first win of the season, taking a 2-goal lead, but then going down to 10 men, then managing to come back to equalise at the death, only to then see Brian Mbeumo's crazy cross kind of somehow make its way into the net in the 97th minute, and then... Even then, there was still time for Ipswich to almost equalise again.
Yeah, and personally, I think Ipswich have been quite overrated generally this season by people. But yeah, you've got to feel for them here. I mean, it was strange that Liam Delap didn't start the game, came off, really nice equaliser for him. But I just love Brentford. I love Thomas Frank. I think that you go through their team. I said this last time I was on, I think, but you go through their team and there's just no superstar, is there? And they develop, like Keane Lewis Potter looks like a much better player for just being developed and having a bit of patience shown with him. And remember Ivan Toney?
Damsgaard was a player who looked very, very good after Euro 2020 with Denmark. And you're going, okay, you're going to go to a Spurs-style club. Goes to Brentford, doesn't really kick on a bit. You're like, oh, maybe that's a bit of a dud. But no, he's again, slowly developing, looking very good. I do have question marks over Vandenberg. I think teams are targeting him.
But
when
let's
they
give
are-
him 6 months with Thomas Frank
Yes.
working with him, and then let's see if he gets better, like all the other Brentford
And I think this
players.
is the thing. This is the being a non-Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea, London team is hard because while you have the pull of being in a big market like London and have that sort of attraction, how you hold on to those good players for too long is quite hard. So you have to do a lot of polishing up. I love Mbeumo, and I think Mbeumo he's got the 2 or 3 qualities where I'm like, yeah, Alex Ferguson would have tried to buy you for like
Yeah.
5 million.
I
Days
totally
are
agree
over
with
now,
that.
let it go.
I totally agree with that. I think I was doing loads of stuff. We do this thing called sensible transfers for what was Tifo but Athletic. Now
Yes.
it doesn't matter. So you have to profile, what players would replace certain players. I'm looking at Liverpool's right side, Salah. Player kept coming up, and all like the data, all the deep analysis was in Mbeumo. And so you're looking at a lot of looking at him more. And I think some players don't have like the brand awareness. They don't have the star. Like they don't shine like that. And I think Mbeumo put him in like a bigger team in Brentford, and suddenly you're like, oh, this guy's amazing because he is so good at everything he does on the pitch. Yeah.
Yes. So
Such a flex to take the Tony pen as well, isn't it? It's like, and what? Yeah,
So
I
he's
take the
got
pens
that, and
then.
The
also-
dreaded stutter penalty.
It's just nice. Oh, again, talk about player improvement. Flecken last season did not look looked soft, if I want to be quite frank with you, and yet he's developed and is looking much more assured as a goalkeeper. This sounds ridiculous. I'm talking about this after they've just conceded 3 goals. However, yeah, I just really like this Brentford team.
Excellent. A word on Harry Clark. Can Jonathan Woodgate now rest easy?
We were all thinking it, weren't we? Yeah.
So, scoring an own goal, conceding a penalty, and getting sent off, all in your first start in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Not a great 70 minutes.
I still think Woodgate's is funnier and therefore worse.
Worse but better. Like, better for him because of the comedy involved in it. Whereas
think so.
Harry Clark, he kind of like, oh,
I
man.
felt
You're
it
not
was
playing
sad
for
for
Real
him.
Madrid. You're playing for Ipswich at Brentford.
Yeah.
The own goal was a bit harsh, though, given that essentially that ball was going in and he
Yeah,
was just trying to
it's momentum.
head it out
Yeah,
while
nothing to do.
sliding
He's
into the
he's
net,
already
so.
sliding. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do with that.
But better times will come for him, no doubt. What is up this season with 2-goal leads? We talked about this on Thursday. The preponderance of teams letting 2-goal leads slip, and Ipswich do it here. In fact, there have now been 5 occasions this season of a team winning a Premier League match having been 2 goals down during the game. To put that in perspective, the only time that there have been more such victories in a single campaign was the 22-23 campaign, a couple of seasons back. And that time there were 6 all season. We've already had 5 this time around.
They just want it more now.
Jay, what does it mean?
They just want it more. It's
Yeah?
just that mentality. Everyone's mentality monsters now. I don't know. I'd need to really look into that. It must just be a freak thing where
Do you think?
what's that statistical? There's like a theory for it where eventually statistics balance out in the end. So there's none of them for ages.
Regression to the mean, not that one, is
I don't
it?
think it's that one. No, it's a thing where you might think something looks like an outlier, therefore it's something to note. But it's actually just because you've got 5 here and 5 below, it becomes 0 in the end.
History is long and your life is finite, essentially. So whether or not the statistic is true has less to do with the thing happening and more a case of at what point are you alive in the big curve going
Oh,
up and
right.
up and down.
Yeah, where you are. So, say for example, where you are.
You often see this with fashion trends, right?
Okay.
This is really big. Or is it, are you just of the correct decade where baggy jeans are in now? Baggy jeans.
or fascism as well. Another thing. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So, where are we on that curve?
I was about to say it's a big game for
They just
Ipswich
want
next
it more.
weekend when they play Leicester, but yeah.
They are
fascism
playing
as
Leicester
well
next
is
weekend.
Also,
Huge.
a thing.
Got Carabao Cup before that, Matt. Full list of the last 16 games would be as follows. Tuesday, Saints take on Stoke, and Brentford are up against Sheffield Wednesday, confusingly. Wednesday, then it's Brighton against Liverpool, Preston North End against Arsenal, Man United, Leicester, Newcastle, Chelsea, Villa Palace, and Spurs against Man City. That'd be interesting.
Carabao Cup's great, isn't it? It would be the quarterfinals by the end of this week.
This
it.
one has the potential for opening up quite nicely for the next round. So we hopefully, maybe, could see some interesting teams
Or at the
with a
same
chance
time,
of winning.
you could watch Aberdeen versus Rangers.
Excellent. That's
yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, huge game.
Huge.
Huge.
How many points between them at the moment? Is it 9?
I can't remember. No, it can't be 9. Sure, that would be.
It might be 8.
That would be crazy. If it
All right,
was.
while you check on that, let me ask Carl about your trip Saturday tea time to Goodison Park to see Everton against Fulham. What a dramatic finale to this. All the games on Saturday, apart from Man City's, had these late, after the 90, significant result-altering goals, and this was one of them.
Absolutely. This was stodgy.
Why did you go to the game?
Oh,
That's the question.
my good friend Aaron lives in Portland. He's supported Everton since about 96 after seeing Cancelis in the tiny 30-minute super condensed highlight package on the United States that was available at 3 o'clock in the morning. So Everton was his team. Never made it to Goodison. Has seen Everton in 2014 at the King Power against Leicester City. Did plan to watch them play against Arsenal the week the Queen passed away. So never quite made it to Goodison. Turned 40 recently, and his wife, who does not like football, said, "Look, you need to go to Goodison while you still can. I will get you some tickets." And Aaron, in his infinite wisdom, sort of looked at the fixture list and went, "This game might be winnable for Everton at this current point in time." So I've got 2 tickets. She does not want to go to this game, so went, "Carl, would you please come with me?" I went, "Of course."
So Beto's tears were for Aaron then.
Beto's tears.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a moment. So I went and I watched. I was sat with the Everton fans, and this Everton team is quite one-dimensional right now. I think it's in days the only player who can go past the player. So it's set pieces or what he can conjure up, or can Dwight McNeil get into the ball with a bit of space.
Who's now got it injured in this game?
Did go off injured. And against the against a Fulham team that can defend pretty well, it just didn't look like it was ever going to come. Alex Iwobi had one of the stranger muted celebrations where he did the hands up, but also had quite a large smile on his face. I mean, Iwobi's link up with Emil Smith-Rowe is nice, and I think, I'm sure Arsenal fans are still looking at it going, "Good job, boys." Smith-Rowe's really taken on the creative burden on this team from Andreas Pereira. Andreas Pereira's dropping a bit deeper. And in the last minutes, when McNeil went off, you're going, well, this is it for Everton. They're not going to get a goal here. We saw Michael Keane, emergency striker, which was quite fun. And then Beto gets the equaliser. Who'd have thunk it?
I like Beto.
Beto works hard.
It's a great
works
story, isn't
really,
it? The Beto
really,
story.
really hard. And you could see what it meant to him at full time.
Why is it a great story, Matt?
Didn't he work in KFC up until a few years ago? Yeah.
He's took the long, circuitous route to the Premier League, to the professional game. Very much seemed like he wasn't going to make it. Then got in, then got out, then got back in again. His arrival at Everton was one of just question marks going, why have you bought this player? He does not have the requisite talent. But Beto has been very, very clear he's going to make up any gap just working his socks off. And if there's any manager in the Premier League who's going to appreciate that, it's probably Sean Dyche.
Do you know Everton have the second lowest amount of possession of any team in the top 5 leagues?
Who's lower?
Well, Empoli.
Oh,
7th
yeah.
on that list, Matt.
2-time European champions, Nottingham Forest.
That's the one.
All right, come on then. Let's talk about Nottingham Forest. Friday it was. Cast your mind back to last week when they had a rainy night at the King Power Stadium. Rocked up and left with a 3-1 victory. Going at the time 5th in the table. 5th.
Yeah, dizzying.
Crazy. And I think Chris Wood was second in the scoring charts at the time. He's his third. But I mean, still, nobody apart from, I guess even Erling Haaland can't really match his scoring rate at the moment, Chris Wood. What's happened to him?
He's been Nuno'd, basically, because he has made quite a lot of not very subtle digs at Steve Cooper and how he's used by Cooper and how it feels to have a manager who genuinely appreciates him. I think it helps a lot that he has pace and quality from wide areas around him. Right. So you stay between the goalposts during the game and finish off chances when they come your way. And he's kind of been knocked with he only scores tap-ins or headers, and his first goal disproved that theory here because it was absolutely magnificent.
And the header as well. The
header came with the assist from Wout Fast. But yeah, he's just turned himself into an excellent player, but in the same way that a lot of Forest players have. And Nuno deserves immense amount of credit and humble pie coming toward my way for being massively underwhelmed when he came in. I think he's shown what a flexible coach he is. I think you see that in this game as well when Ryan Yates misses from 2 yards out to make it 4-1 and he goes, right, wingers, off you come, we'll put defenders on now. Don't try and score the next goal. We just see out this game. Really clever management. He's been doing that all season. Forest have got Danilo and Ibrahim Sangare, who ought to be the 2 starting central midfielders, and had James Ward-Prowse unavailable for the previous game. They haven't felt that absence because Ryan Yates has stepped up. This is a guy who's played in the top 5 divisions of English football. He shouldn't be a Premier League captain. He's been at Barrow and Shrewsbury and Notts County and Scunthorpe, and through sheer bloody-minded perseverance has managed to make himself a Premier League captain. So for him to score in this game was fabulous as well. Obviously, there's the whole Steve Cooper thing too. It was a lovely old job. I enjoyed it tremendously. And yeah, Forest looked like a decent Premier League team. It took them until the end of December to win back-to-back Premier League games last season. And they've done it for the first time here. Beat Palace on Monday, beat Leicester on Friday. They've won at Anfield.
Who have you got next?
Who we got next is West Ham at home next weekend. Okay. So, yeah, maybe they could even make it 3 on the spin. I did also enjoy, obviously, Nuno watching on from the stands, serving out his touchline ban, because I was a fiend for content after this game. I watched 3 separate post-match interviews he did. And each time, the first question was, well, maybe if it carries on like this, you should stay in the stand. And he had to do the same forced laugh of, yeah, maybe, but I preferred to be on the touchline.
That was my next question.
Talk to me a bit more about Elliot Anderson, because in the highlights I'm seeing, I'm going, oh, Jack Grealish used to do that for Villa.
To steal a line from you, Carl, he could have done a job for Newcastle today, but unfortunately they had PSR requirements they had to meet, so Forest got him instead. But yeah, Morgan Gibbs-White didn't play in this game, didn't play on Monday. Not a talking point because Elliot Anderson played instead. Forest have got great depth. Another club who were pilloried for their recruitment for a couple of years. Turns out they've actually done some pretty good business over the last 18 months or so.
Excellent. Saturday afternoon also saw Wolves with a storming finale and really limbs of the weekend when at about 4 o'clock, when at about 7 minutes to 5 on Saturday. So this was the moment, though, because you have Brighton on a 4-1 break.
And again, everybody who watches it and everybody who's commentating on the game saw the Sky edit, saw the match of the day edit. Once he gets it, imagine if they score from here. Like when you watch it, knowing the score, you're like, I know what happens here.
So Brighton are on a 4-1 break, and
Mats Wiefer
whiffs the pass
anywhere but there, Mats.
And then Tommy Doyle does it. I don't think Tommy Doyle's the only Wolves player who can pull that off, and maybe it's frankly absurd. I've just said that, but I believe it. God damn it!
Great 70s footballer name as well.
I know.
Should be playing in 2024 called Tommy Doyle. But
again, I didn't know how the equaliser happened because you read in the 3 o'clock, you go, okay, so Wolves actually scored in the last minute, and it was a assist from Tommy Doyle, and you're watching it live going, but how does Tommy Doyle? Oh, he must have. Oh, he did it in one motion. Tremendous.
Yeah, and Matthews Cunha is a real difference maker for Wolves, I think, isn't he? You look at that group of teams down the bottom who are going to struggle, and every time I see him, I think he's a really impressive player, and he gets good returns for goals as well, so he might be vital for them.
Because that trio, Cunha, Lemina, and Doyle, Dawson as well, I should probably not be too mean. If Wolves are going to get out of the mire, it's going to ask a lot from them. And also, because Cunha's in this very difficult position where when Wolves do win the ball, it does tend to be quite deep, and he does have to carry it maybe 10 yards more than what you want an attacking player to have to carry. But what's quite nice about him is when he does make the pass or make the shot, he doesn't have that sort of exhausted, fogging brain fog that happens when a lot of players go, I've done the sprint. What? Oh, God. And they whiff the pass. He does have that extra 5% in that ball striking. So they do. There's just enough in there that you think they'll be okay, providing he stays fit.
Well, better fixtures on their way for Wolves. Once again, it was a team 2-0 up, failing to hang on for the win. Just a quick word on Daniel Welbeck, but I didn't mean quick because Aston Villa supporters are going, well, hang on. Did we play this weekend? But Daniel Robson says, has there ever been a player that has peaked as late in his career as Daniel Welbeck? It's his 17th Premier League season, and he's looking the best he's ever been. Also to mention, Evan Ferguson getting his first goal in, I think, over a year, but 20 Premier League matches. A lot of injury time off there. And Brighton, for all the drop points against Wolves, they are still off to their joint best points tally after 9 games of a top-flight season ever.
Can't be many times in his career that Welbeck scored in 3 successive games. So, yeah, I mean, good on him.
Nice one. Now, Aston Villa Bournemouth. 1-1. Oh, there was a late goal here as well. Evan Nilsson. And the keeper was up as well.
Yeah, Bournemouth, Iraola, lots of attractive players. I think you kind of label them as, aren't they nice to watch? But the thing that really strikes me is their obdurateness. Like, I saw this at Forest on opening day. As they were here, they were 1-0 down for quite a long time in the game, but they just stayed in it, and eventually a chance comes, and they take it. They obviously did something even more spectacular away to Everton, but I think that's a really impressive facet of their game, which is not talked about very much. I quite like Bournemouth this season.
Was it a bit of an Aston Villa Champions League hangover? They had the 2-0 win over Bologna midweek. And much as I think they did, it was the 0-0 draw against Man United after Bayern Munich, wasn't it?
Yeah. They lacked energy then as well. I think that really happens to a lot of teams. You see it. It's common, right? We all know that's what happens.
Central midfield depth is just a little bit, the drop-off in their central midfield levels, just a little bit too stark. Russ Buckley, I think, is a very fine player. Yuri Tielemans, very fine player. Barkley is coming towards the end of his career, and Tielemans has never been the most athletic. So if you really run at them, you can finagle them a little bit. Onana can only do so much coverage.
Interesting to see if they prioritise it differently now then, because they probably, the new Champions League format pickles my brain a little bit, but they must have pretty much qualified by now, right? They're top of the group.
16 points.
So do you then go, okay, well, the Premier League games become more important?
I think 15-16 will get in the top 8 of any league phase in all versions of the competition. I think what we will probably see now as we approach match day 5-6 onwards, our teams will probably rotate a lot more in the Champions League if they are comfortably in that top 8. The question, but again, when you're Aston Villa, they can't comfortably rotate to this. Obviously, they can't comfortably rotate to the same level as, say, a Bayern Munich or the other teams that have also had James Milner that are at the top of that league phase.
Bayern Munich had James Milner?
No.
Oh, sorry, okay.
That was a weird
Yeah, they could do one day.
They could do one day.
In his career, I wouldn't have. Yeah.
I believe it.
All that needs to happen is for Harry Kane to say, I'd like James Milner for a bit,
Yeah,
please.
Absolutely. It's very harsh retiring Ross Barkley when he's like 30, isn't it? You'll get a few more years out of him, do you think?
That's up to Russ Buckley.
Scores in this game, though.
He did. He
Yeah.
did. I think he's great. I also think the drop off from that starting midfield of Tielemans and Onana to Tielemans and another.
It's a different style
yes,
player. Really.
And they're also.
I really like Barkley, like what he's doing now, playing the deeper. Like the thing he was doing before at Luton. I really like it. Is the kind of the quite busy 6. I think that's. It's a theory I've got, like players who are good in the final third but don't actually create chances. Their numbers aren't ever that good. They probably are quite good being deeper when they can see more of the pitch, and they can be they have more time because they're not quite as it's not as busy in that part of the pitch, which is where I think he's been really, really good for them. But you maybe wouldn't start him because you've got the other 2 obviously that are in there. Don't know, I think they've got options, but yeah, I take your
ground coverage is the slight concern to Aston Villa. I think especially in these games
especially if you play in the
Champions
games.
League,
If you're good out of possession, you can't run as much, and it changes the way you defend. Yeah.
What's less of a concern for Aston Villa is the fact that for all these drop points, they are still top 4, level with Arsenal on 18 points. Crikey. I love that Ross Barkley's getting a third act to his career like that. Yeah, long may it continue.
Big fan.
Yeah.
Ross Barkley, Danny Welbeck.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Me. Excellent. Anything else from match day 9?
Just the win over Dundee United, I'd say. That was the big
one.
point, yeah.
The New Firm Derby.
That's the one. It's caught
The
on.
New Firm game. Sorry, New Firm game.
New Firm Derby, yeah.
Yeah, you call it Derby.
I think I just call it the New Firm, I guess.
All right.
I don't know.
Excellent, JJ. Well, we'll stay in touch. No. I mean, keep us up to date on
Okay,
this
I
exciting
will.
rollercoaster ride that is the Dun season.
I'll text you. I'll give you some updates.
Yeah,
That's fine.
nice one. Many thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having
And to Matt for coming in from Stamford Bridge.
Pleasure.
And for Carl, hot-footing it across from the London Stadium. Liam, a producer Charlie in the booth. To everyone who joined us on our YouTube channel and to you listener to our podcast, many, many thanks. As mentioned, the next show we'll be doing will be that bumper Tuesday edition of the Totally Football Show with all the Euro news on what's been a crazy weekend across the continent. Do join us for that. For now, though, from all of us here, it's goodbye.